A red bandana is stuffed into the tailpipe of a black Saturn sedan, nose first into a snowbank on a dark stretch of Route 112. The engine is cold. The doors are locked. Inside, a box of wine sits on the back seat, and the airbags have deployed. A neighbor across the road has already dialed 911. A school bus driver has already pulled over, rolled down his window, and spoken to the young woman standing beside the car. She told him she had called Disappearance. She had not. By the time a Haverhill police cruiser arrives, less than 10 minutes later, she is gone. Where did Maura Murray go in those 10 minutes, and why has no one seen her since? Maura Murray is 21 years old in February of 2004. She is a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, a former West Point cadet, a long-distance runner with a quiet, competitive streak. Her family describes her as disciplined and private. Her father, Fred Murray, lives in Hanson, Massachusetts. Her sister Kathleen is in recovery and depends on her. Her boyfriend, Billy Roush, is an Army second lieutenant stationed in Oklahoma. They talk on the phone almost every night. By all outside measures, her life is on a clean, upward line. She has a job as a security guard at a campus art gallery. She has a class schedule. She has weekend plans. But in the days leading up to February 9th, something begins to shift inside her that no one around her can clearly read. She is seen crying at her security desk on the night of February 5th. She has a minor accident in her father's new car that same weekend, sideswiping a guardrail on Route 9 in Hadley. The car is drivable, but her father is upset. They plan to fix it together the following weekend. Then, on Monday, February 9th, Maura sits down at her dorm computer and starts making decisions no one will ever fully be able to explain. Around 1 in the afternoon, she emails her professors and her supervisor at work. She writes that there has been a death in the family and that she will be away for a few days. There has been no death in the family. No one has called her with bad news. The email is, on its face, a lie, and it is a lie she puts in writing. She packs her dorm room. Witnesses later say she boxes up belongings as if she is leaving for a long time. She prints out directions on MapQuest, including routes to Burlington, Vermont, and to the Berkshires. She withdraws $280 from an ATM, nearly the entire balance of her account. She stops at a liquor store in Hanover, New Hampshire, and on the security tape she is seen buying a box of Franzia, a bottle of Bailey's, a bottle of vodka, and a bottle of Kahlua. She is alone. Then she gets back in her black Saturn and drives north on Route 91, then east on Route 112 into the White Mountains. She does not tell her father. She does not tell her boyfriend. She does not tell her sister. Just after 7 in the evening, on a sharp curve near a place locals call the Weathered Barn on Wild Ammonoosuc Road in Haverhill, the Saturn leaves the pavement. It strikes a cluster of trees and spins backwards into the snowbank on the opposite side. The damage to the front end is significant. The airbags fire. The car is disabled but not destroyed. A resident named Faith Westman looks out her window and sees the wreck. She watches a person in the driver's seat moving around inside. She picks up the phone and calls the police. The dispatcher logs the call at 7:43 p.m. A few minutes later, Butch Atwood, a school bus driver who lives just up the road, drives by on his way home. He sees the Saturn. He stops. He rolls down his window. He later tells investigators that he asked the young woman if she was hurt and offered to call for help. She told him no. She told him she had already called Disappearance. She seemed, in his words, shivering and upset, but she was insistent. She did not want him to call anyone. He drove the few hundred feet to his house and called the police anyway. By the time Sergeant Cecil Smith of the Haverhill Police Department pulls up to the Saturn, the time is roughly 7:46 p.m. The car is empty. The doors are locked. The keys are gone. Maura Murray is gone. And here the case begins to do something a normal missing person case does not do. It refuses to leave a trail. Inside the car, investigators find the box of wine, some personal items, and a TPA card. They find no blood. They find no signs of struggle. They find a red rag jammed into the tailpipe, a trick sometimes used to stop a damaged exhaust from leaking fumes into the cabin. They find the steering column locked. They do not find a cell phone. They do not find Maura. A K9 unit is brought in the next day. The dog picks up a scent at the driver's side door. It tracks east along Route 112 for roughly 100 yards. Then it stops. The scent simply ends. There is no body. There are no footprints leading off into the woods. There is no abandoned coat or boot. The trail does not curve back. It does not branch. It ends at the edge of the road. It is now that the strangeness in the days before begins to feel less like coincidence and more like preparation. The lie about a death in the family, the packed boxes, the MapQuest printouts, the cash withdrawal, the alcohol, the drive north into a region she had no known reason to visit on a Monday night in February alone. There is one more detail that has haunted investigators from the beginning. A man in a nearby home tells police that on the night of the crash, around the time Maura disappeared, he saw a jogger run past his house in the dark. The figure was moving fast, on a remote rural road, on a freezing winter night with no streetlights. He thought it was odd enough to remember. He did not think to stop them. In the weeks that follow, Fred Murray drives north and begins searching the woods himself. He does not stop searching. He files lawsuits to obtain police records. He gives interviews. He pushes and pushes and pushes, and the case stays exactly where it was on February 10, 2004. Open, unsolved, cold. The first theory, the one some early investigators lean toward, is that Maura wandered into the woods, disoriented, possibly intoxicated, possibly hypothermic, and died of exposure. The temperature that night dropped well below freezing. She was not dressed for a long walk. The problem is the search. Hundreds of volunteers, cadaver dogs, helicopters, and divers have combed the area in the years since. No remains have ever been recovered. The second theory is that she got into a vehicle. Either she accepted a ride from someone who happened to pass, or she was abducted by someone who saw an opportunity. The window between the crash and the arrival of police is only a matter of minutes, but it is enough. Route 112 is rural, but it is not empty. A driver passing through Haverhill at the wrong moment could have changed everything. There has never been a confirmed suspect, but several names have been raised over the years, including local men with criminal histories. None has ever been charged. The third theory is that Maura intended to disappear. The lie to her professors, the cash, the boxes, the route into a remote area all suggest a person preparing to step out of her own life. Some who hold this theory believe she may have planned suicide in the woods. Others believe she walked away into a new identity. The counter-argument is simple. 20-plus years later, with her face on every database and missing persons site in the country, no one has produced a single credible sighting. A fourth theory, quieter than the others, holds that she was meeting someone, that the trip north was not random, that the destination was a person, and that the crash interrupted a plan no one else knew about. The supporting evidence is circumstantial. The undermining evidence is that no such person has ever been identified. What we know is this. A young woman left her dorm room on a Monday afternoon in February, drove 130 miles north into the mountains with a packed car and a story that wasn't true, crashed on a curve she could not have known was coming, refused help from the one stranger who offered it, and then, in the span of less than 10 minutes, vanished from the side of a road she had no apparent reason to be on. The dog tracked her scent 100 yards. Then, nothing. No body, no witness, no closure for a father who is no longer alive to receive it. Where did she go in those 10 minutes? If you have a theory about what really happened, drop it in the comments. I read every one.